Hello again, YouTube. It is me. I am doing the WALS Let's Read again. It's been a little bit since the last episode. I'm sorry about that, folks. I'd like for them to be a more regular thing, but I suppose I can't promise anything. Whoa, this one is long, so this might take a couple of recording sessions, but I'm only going to upload it as one thing. So this is chapter Exponents of selected inflectional, or exponents probably, exponents of selected inflectional formatives. And this is, again, it's by the same authors as the last one. This is Balthazar Bickel and Johanna Nichols. And they talked about exponents a little in the last chapter, if I recall correctly. But it looks like we're going to learn more about it. They're going to even define it for us, so that's pretty exciting. So, together with fusion and flexivity, i.e. patterns of allomorphy. What does allomorphy mean again? God. Sorry, I might be a little stupid this episode. Oh, okay. Yeah. So it's when one thing has many forms that it can appear as. Even though they're the same thing in terms of meaning, but they're different in terms of how they look, but they're all derived from the same place. So fusion and flexivity are some of the patterns of allomorphy. Exponence is one of the parameters of morphological topology. While traditional notions like agglutinative and flexive conflate these parameters, see Planck, one of Planck's works, and some Bickel's. Planck is another author. Planck is I think the most prolific author on this site. No, I was thinking of Dreyer. Why did I get Dreyer and Planck confused? Planck isn't a part of this. My bad, folks. Yeah, geez, see, I told you I'd be stupid. So, whatever. So read these if you're curious about typology and stuff. They're surveyed here separately. So usually these three things are thought of conflatedly, but anything separately. For fusion, see chapter 20. For one-dimensional flexivity, see chapter 59 on possessive classification. So let's define exponents. Exponents refers to the number of categories that culminate into a single formative. The universal default is to express each category by a dedicated formative. These are mono-exponential or separative formatives. Poly-exponential or cumulative formatives, i.e. formatives which simultaneously code more than one category, are much rarer. A well-known example is number and case in many Indo-European languages. Marking of case in these languages involves the same formative as marking of number. And it is impossible to identify separate markers of case and number. Thus, in Russian, genitive singular is I or A, and genitive plural is A or ov or U. I don't know if that's correct. And there's no element in these forms that exclusively expresses case or number. When categories are not cumulated into a single formative, each has its own separate marker. This is so in Turkish, where the number is always expressed on nouns by the suffix lur, and for each case there's a separate suffix that can combine with lur. Genitive in to make lurlin, accusative I, plural luri, dative e, plural lure, etc. I should probably say it like ler. Whatever, it doesn't matter. I'm not actually trying to speak the languages, they're just explaining something. I have water. I remember to bring it before recording. Exponence is a purely morphological notion. In particular, it is independent of the phonological connection between host and formative. Therefore, mono-exponential formatives can combine with any fusion type. Thus, the Fijian past tense formative a is mono-exponential and isolating. The Turkish past tense formative t and its alternates is mono-exponential and concatenative. The Kisi high tone past perfective is formative. The key C high tone past perfective formative is that is a mouthful. The key C high tone past perfective formative is mono-exponential and non-linear. Ugh. That's pretty cool. Likewise, polyexponential formatives can combine with any fusion type. An isolating, ooh, this is interesting. I didn't even think that something like this could exist. An isolating polyexponential formative is found in Wari. In this language, the expression of agreement, tense, and voice. So agreement, nothing like gender agreement, tense, and voice accumulates into a single formative. This formative projects its own phonological word, as evidenced by stress assignment, the ability to be uttered independently, and the absence of vowel harmony and other alternations. So he is drinking water. So we have the verb drink, water. So drink, water, and then this just expresses all the grammatical stuff, or some of the grammatical stuff, like that it's third person singular, that it's in the real mood, non-future, active voice. Wow, that's really cool. All that is expressed with this one word, this polyexponential formative. And it's completely separate from these other two verbs. Words, my bad. The corresponding first and second person formatives are ina and ma respectively. The future forms are ta, ra, tara. The passive forms shita, shima, and ta. There's no consistent internal morpheme structure, hence the formatives are analyzed as having cumulative exponents. The Russian genitive case suffixes mentioned earlier, examples of concatenative polyexponential form. I feel like I read that wrong. The Russian genitive case suffixes mentioned earlier are examples of concatenative polyexponential forms. Nonlinear polyexponential formatives are common among Semitic languages, where vowel templates express tense, voice, and agreement simultaneously. Just like here, it was tense, voice, and, right? Tense, voice, and agreement. I'm almost to the map. Sampling procedure and feature values. We sampled for each language one exemplar of a case and one exemplar, case as in, okay. So we sampled for each language one exemplar of a case and one exemplar of a tense aspect mood formative. Following the procedure we set out in the chapter on sampling case and tense formatives. We were interested in combinations of very different categories. We are interested in combinations of very different categories in one formative, and not, for instance, in combinations of some tense value with some aspect value. Oh, that makes sense. Thus, for coding purposes, we treated tense, aspect, mood, status, and evidentiality as one category, and it checked whether or not this cumulates with such categories as agreement, voice, or negation. I think this is a good way to go about it. Many such, honestly, I don't even think tense, aspect, and mood, like, mood is such a fucking catch-all. I feel like there either needs to be more or less categories, and there should be a word for that just is TAM. Like, it sucks that you have to write an acronym for all three of those. Like, I feel like one word should cover all those, because they're kind of basically the same thing. They're just different categories of one thing, rather than being one thing that all fits into a group. That's how I look at it anyway. Many such category combinations are possible, but in our sample, we found only those shown on the maps. Categories of agreement. Oh, okay. What does this mean? Oh, yeah. Like, you could combine TAM with agreement, TAM with voice, TAM with negation, agreement with voice, agreement. But they only found some of those. So they're saying that they're only showing what could be shown. All right, as we can see, very plainly, mono-exponential is the rule. And this, I don't think this would surprise anyone. Well, it's actually tied with no case, and that's also not very surprising. So is this noun case? Whatever. Maybe I should read the explanation first before I look at the map. So this first map is how it works on nouns. This is what I was confused about. I thought this was a verb map. I thought this was showing about exponents in verbs. But this is exponents in nouns. And this is exponents in verbs. Now, that makes a lot more sense, because I thought it was really weird that there was a lot of things with no TAM, because that kind of goes against what we read last time, where it said, like, having cases and stuff, like having suffixes. I mean, having suffixes was extremely common. And, you know, I feel like the thing that suffixes is most to do is either case or, yeah. So I was a little surprised to see all these white spots, but now it makes sense, because it seems like if something has a suffix, that suffix is most likely on a verb. Like, pretty much every language has prefixes or suffixes on verbs, but not every language has prefixes and suffixes on nouns, is the first thing I'm noticing from looking at these maps. That's why it's so long. It has to go over nouns and verbs. Wow. Case exponents. Case exponents has a different distribution than TAM exponents. I should have just fucking read this. It's literally right there. Case exponents has a different... is it exponents or exponents? It doesn't matter. I like exponents better. It does matter a little bit. It matters not that much, but it matters a little bit. Webster. They're probably using the dumbass X is fucking English. I hate the English phonetic alphabet. Why do we have to be different from everyone else? No, it's nowhere. It's nowhere. It's nowhere. If I look at this, I'm sure it's there. It shows where the stress is, even if I can't read the exponents. It seems like it's stressing this, I think. Yeah, exponents. I like exponents better. I don't care. It's a big waste of time, whatever. Case exponents has a different distribution than TAM exponents, but in both instances, polyexponents is rare. Map 21A displays case exponents with the following feature values. So yellow is mono-exponential case. Red is case and number are mangled together. Case and referentiality. What is that? I've never seen that word before. I mean, I'm sure they'll explain it, but yeah. I need to look it up, I think. I don't think it does explain it. Referentiality, linguistics. Referentiality has to do with how identifiable a referent in an utterance is. A referent is normally a noun phrase, such as my cat or them, but maybe it could be something else, I'm not sure. Referentiality mostly define the definiteness and specificity of a referent. In English, the is the definite article. Oh! So, it's like definite or indefinite. Those are kind of referentialities. Okay, that makes sense. So, mono-exponential case. This would be the case that it is commingled with a number. This is the case that it is commingled with whether it's definite or indefinite. And this is where case and DAM are together, which is awesome. Where is that? That's one in Africa. God, I can't zoom in with the scroll wheel. We've got these unique boys that merge their verbs and noun stuff together. So we have TAM in case here, in looks like Upper Uganda, and one here on this little spike in Australia. And let's really think about this. So I guess it's mainly yellow and white we're looking at. So this is has case or doesn't have case. So it looks like in lower, I don't know if you folks can see my mouse. I don't know if you folks can see my mouse, but you can see the little rectangles that pop up, I'm sure of that. It's like kind of lower and like to the right of South America. There's a lot of white spots, but it gets yellow as we approach Central America and like right over Peru. So it kind of makes a line dividing it. But in Central America itself, like the upper, like in Mexico, I guess, it's mostly no case. So no case, and then case, and then kind of a mix, and then a lot of cases in California. No case here. And then we've got some purples. So these are case and referentiality in some Canadian languages. And then case and number in these guys. These are so far apart, but maybe they're related. Who knows? Lots of cases in India. Not many cases in this part of Africa. But there's lots of cases here. Red, yeah, they were talking about how Europe is famous for case and number being expressed in the same thing. So you can see 4 examples of that here. And then we got more purple languages, which is case and referentiality. And we have 1 up in Russia, and 3 in these islands of the Philippines and Indonesia. And then, is there more red here? Because yeah, there's 1 right here. So let's zoom out again. As you can see, there's red in Europe. There's purple, or I shouldn't say the colors, I should say what they mean. There's case and number encoding the same thing in Europe. There's case and referentiality coding the same thing in some of these islands and in Lower Canada. Lots of cases in India. Lots of cases in the Middle East. Lots of cases near, I think this is called the Horn of Africa. Not many cases right where Niger is, like the Niger River, and Mali. I think that's what, is that Mali? Yeah, it is. Lots of cases in Australia. I didn't even look at this part. See, there's a lot of cases in Australia, but a lot of these Papua New Guinea languages are caseless. Solomon Islands caseless. I think that's Haiti is caseless. No, VD. VD is caseless. No, Haiti's like over here, right? Whatever. I don't know much geography, so this is going to be a bit hard for me. But, you know, that's why I'm doing this. I'm trying to learn. Caseless in Central America, but as you get lower down, there's a few more cases, and as you get further up, there's a few more cases. Not many cases in Lower Mexico, but then in Upper South America, there's, yeah. So as you can see, there's pretty substantial banding in this. Like, it isn't, of course it's not random, but it's interesting to see what is where. And yeah. Case number coexponence is illustrated by the Russian example it's discussed above. By coexponence of case with referential values, case plus referentiality, we refer to case markers that specify their host NP as topics or having specific or definite reference. In our sample, this characterizes the Austronesian nominatives, also called focus markers or triggers, and the Algonquian and Kootenai proximatives. Okay, that makes sense. Each of these case markers not only marks a specific grammatical relation, but also signals that the NP so is marked. The NP so marked, that's such a weird way to say that. But also signals that the NP so marked is topical and definite. For illustration and discussion, see examples 1 and 2 in the explanation of case sampling. While referential values also play a role in referential values also play a role in differential object or differential subject marking. What the fuck is a differential object marking? Is that math? Is it like a differential equation? I can't just pull this word out of their ass like it's something I know what it means, bro. Oh, wow. I'm going to take a break. I'm going to look at this later. This is a lot. All right. I am back. This is the next day. It's the morning of the next day, so I have forgotten around 90% of what I must have been reading. I remember I was stuck. When we last left off, I was stuck because it said differential object and differential subject marking, and I had literally no clue what that meant. So it looks like there's something, yeah. So we're going to be reading this Wikipedia article and trying to understand what the hell DAM is. In linguistics, differential argument marking, DAM, is the phenomenon of a language's encoding a single grammatical function, e.g. subject or object, in different ways. It includes the uniform encoding of arguments in terms of case marking, but also in terms of the presence or absence of the agreement in the verb. The term differential marking, specifically differential argument marking, or DOM, was coined by George Basong in relation to his work on Sardinian and New Iranian languages. However, in recent years, there has been growing interest in the great variety of differential marking patterns in the world languages in both formal and functional linguistics. So let's go to differential object marking. In linguistics, differential object marking is the phenomenon in certain objects of verbs are marked to reflect various syntactic and semantic factors. One form of the more general phenomenon of differential argument marking, differential object marking, is present in more than 300 languages. The term differential, okay. In languages where DOM is active, direct objects are partitioned into two classes. In most DOM languages, only the members of one of the classes receives a marker, the other being unmarked. But in some languages like Finnish, objects of both the classes are marked with different endings. In non-DOM languages, by contrast, direct objects are uniformly marked in a single way. For instance, Chekwa marks all direct objects with the direct object marking ta, whereas English has no overt markers for any direct objects. A common basis for differentially marking direct objects is the notion of prominence, which reflects two properties that can be understood in decreasing scales. Oh, yeah, like in Spanish, you put if it's if it's a human marker, I think. Okay, so you mark prominence. So if it's a prominent object, as in like a more animate object or a more definite object, it gets marked. But if it's not prominent, it gets not marked. Or maybe the other way around, or maybe they both get marked, but in different ways. But you mark objects in two different ways. That's interesting. Yeah, and they talk about Spanish here. So it looks like generally the more prominent ones get marked, whereas the less prominent ones don't. Interesting. Yeah, I think I generally get it. I don't really need to read all this. Okay, so I don't know if you've looked at this map before, but let's look at it. Case exponents Wait, that's the wrong map. My bad. Yeah, I'm not the greatest host. Well, referential values also play a role in differential object or differential subject marking. We did not treat such marking as instantiating case plus referentiality coexponence. In systems of differential marking, definiteness emerges only secondarily as a result of or using. Okay, this is hard to read. So they're saying that they didn't consider differential object marking as marking case plus referentiality, which is interesting. While referential values also play a role in differential object or differential subject marking, we did not treat such marking. Oh, Basong, that's the guy who invented this stuff, right? That we read about in the Wikipedia article, and they're citing him. They're citing the inventor. Wow. At least I think that's correct. While referential values also play a role in differential object or differential subject marking, we did not treat such markings as instantiating case plus referentiality coexponence. In systems of differential marking, definiteness emerges only secondarily as resulting of using or not using a certain case marker in response to the situational salience or referential action of the object. For example, using or not using the accusative in Turkish or the ba particle in Mandarin in response to situational salience. Case markers with the true referentiality coexponent are different in that the use of the markers is obligatory. In Tagalong or Cree, one of the NPs in a clause must be in the nominative or approximative, respectively. What speakers can choose is on which argument they place the marker, but they cannot choose to simply drop the case marking altogether. A borderline example of case referentiality coexponence is evenki. This language has two accusative forms, one for indefinite objects and an unmarked one for definite or indefinite objects. Huh. This is like the true case referentiality coexponence because case marking is obligatory object, but the functional distribution of the two case markers approximates the differential object marking pattern. I don't quite understand this. I don't really think I need to, though. It's mostly just saying we didn't count differential object marking as case referentiality coexponence, which I honestly don't understand why they did. They didn't really explain why they didn't count it. They just said that they didn't count it, and they said there were some edge cases. So I guess we just have to ignore that. I don't know. Case TAM coexponence is an extremely rare phenomenon. In our sample, and to our knowledge in general, there are only two instances. One is Kjardild. I could not see the C, so you can see the verb is. Wait, hold on. Oh, the object, yeah, because they're talking about nouns right now, right? Yeah, they are. See, the noun is the object is marked for tense, and the object is marked for case. Nope, I was looking at the wrong thing. Fuck my life. See, actual tense or actual mood, I think, and then locative case. Future tense and propriative mood. Hold on, I need to let my dog in. And we are back, I believe. Yeah, the timer's ticking up. Yeah, so This marks TAM and case, which is very rare. The past and future tense values are exclusively established here by the choice of case markers on the object, locative for actual instantiated events, proprietary for future events. Okay. The other instance is lugbara. Here, the difference between present and perfect tense is indicated, at least in some environments, exclusively by the presence versus the object of the subject case marker. Interesting. Wow. This is different from TAM-based subject marking splits, split ergative, split nominative, because in 4, TAM values are not independently indexed by the clause. TAM-based marking splits, split ergative, split nominative. What the hell is that? What does this 4 mean? Oh, it's referring to that. But what is split ergative? Oh, some use ergative syntax and some use nominative syntax. But what is split nominative then? Okay. TM exponents. All right, this is our second map. Oh, and it looks like there's not as much to say about it. So, looks like most of this is mono exponential TAM, which obviously makes sense. There's very, very little no TAM. We've got one right in the center of Africa. We've got one in one of those islands. I don't know, I think that's Papua New Guinea. Papua Barat Daya, specifically. One at the top of Australia, and one in the middle. There's one in the middle of South America, and there's one in the middle of Africa. It's pretty symmetric. So it looks like if something's going to be co-exponential, it's going to be TAM and agreement, which I think makes sense. We can see some in Europe, some in, I believe this is the Caucasus. We've got like 3 in India. That's crazy. Or this isn't India. This is China. This is Tibetan. This is, I don't know what country that is. It's written in Arabic, so I can't read it. But there's 3 here. That's crazy. You know, it's like these 2 places are hotspots for this sort of thing, and that makes sense because they're, or I don't know how that makes sense, but India, they're like Hindi. I know this is a Proto-Indo-European language, so these would be kind of distantly related. I don't know how much that matters. Ket is also, so lots of purples, and there's not, whatever. There's purples all around. There's even purples on this island. Purples in Indonesia. 3 purple, oh my god, 3 purples in Papua New Guinea. Is there any purples in the Americas? Yes, there are. There are 19 purples total. There's not as few as I thought there were. We can see where they are here. They're kind of, it doesn't look like there's a real pattern to where they are in the Americas. In terms of Afro-Eurasia, it looks like they're mostly in Europe, like Western Europe, around the top of India, and there's so many in these islands, especially in Papua New Guinea. What is diathesis? That is a cool sounding word. That's so interesting, that if none of them have just TAM plus diathesis, they also include agreement. So if you're gonna have diathesis or construct, it's agreement is also there, at least in the sample. I don't know what construct is, so I suppose I'm going to have to look that up too. Oh, this is not what I wanted. Whatever, I'm sure they'll explain it. Diathesis. Another term for voice. Okay, so like passive voice, okay. That makes sense. Polarity. There we go. Yeah. So, diathesis, and we can see we have these in Greek and in the Middle East. And one in Papua New Guinea, and none in the Americas. That's interesting. Yeah. And then TEM plus polarity. We have 2 examples in Africa, 1 in the Caucasus, and two whole ones in Australia. That's interesting. Like, kind of pretty near each other, too. I would not be surprised if these 2 are related. Yeah. That's a pretty cool map. TAM plus agreement coexponence is well known from Indo-European and Semitic languages, both ancient and modern. It is also common in the Papuan languages. Okay. Common in the Papuan languages, especially in those classified as part of the Trans-New Guinea phylum. In Indo-European and in some Papuan languages, the same formatives expressing TAM agreement also code diathesis. For example, active versus passive versus middle in modern Greek, active versus middle in Kewa. In one instance, the TAM plus agreement exponence pattern also extends to what we call construct marking. Construct marking is the overt registration on the head in the presence of the dependent, or a particular kind of dependent, or a dependent in a particular position. Okay, that kind of makes sense. This phenomenon is best known from Semitic noun phrases, where construct forms register the overt presence of a dependent possessor. So like head marking. I understand. Depending on what the... with verbs, the construct form registers the overt presence of particular arguments. It is chiefly found, but variously labeled, in languages of Africa and the Pacific. The only instance in our sample where verbal construct marking is combined with a TAM formative is longo. There is one perfective marker used after the pronominal subject n, or with relativized subjects, and another perfective marker used elsewhere. Verbal construct marking is combined. TM formative. Okay. One perfective marker used after the subject or with... Oh, okay. So the sentence is different depending on if it's construct mark or not. Oh, and it looks like it's only different by the tone, which that's pretty cool. The formatives differ from each other by the tonal pattern. However, the tonal pattern does not exclusively mark the construct versus non-construct difference, but also encodes part of the agreement and aspect features. TM polarity exponence, finally, is found in languages where the expression of the negation of the verb is so tightly interwoven with the coding of TM values that no morphemes can be extracted for either category. Results and discussion. All instances of polyexponence are singularities, limited to single languages or single families. Polyexponence is extremely resistant to areal spread. In turn, some instances are well attested throughout many branches of their families. This suggests great genealogical stability, and current distributions across individual families perhaps point to historical relationships beyond the reach of the comparative method. Example of this is coexponence of case with number. This pattern is a stable feature of archaic Indo-European case systems, represented here by German, Greek, and Russian. It is also found in several branches of the Uralic, here in Finnish and Nenets. Okay, so that's the end of the sentence, sorry. Apart from this, case number coexponence shows up in Eskimo, Chukchi, Yaqui, and Lugbara. However, on closer inspection in most of these languages, the phenomenon is different from the one in Uralic and Indo-European. For example, limited to individual cases or subsets of nouns, as in Chukchi, or resulting from total case neutralization in the plural, as in Yaqui. This suggests that the distribution in Indo-European and Uralic perhaps reflects a singularity inherited from a common proto-language. Whoa, that's some crazy talk. That is some real fucking crazy talk. I don't know how much I believe that, but I mean, it's interesting to think about. I mean, it could be true. There would be no real way to prove it, though. But I mean, this is kind of decent evidence. I mean, like they said, this poly-exponence doesn't really spread between languages. So, but it also could be true that they just kind of, it's by coincidence. They both happen to have ancestor languages with a lot of co-exponents. Like, it's just because it's rare doesn't mean that it's impossible for these two to share this feature. Yeah. That's it for this episode. I hope you guys enjoyed it. I'm going to try to upload these more regularly. I'm not going to be able to keep that promise, probably, but it's what I want to do. So I hope you all enjoyed, and I love you so much.